Okay, so where I left off, let me go through some of my process on how I start generating the level itself. What I will do if I don't have some random amazing inspiration for whatever reason is I'll take maybe 2 or 3 pieces from the editor, just browsing through, and I will create patterns with those specific pieces. So in this level you can see I used a lot of these kind of gear shaped platforms and the rounded buildings, and I just start messing around with those. I'll place them in ways that I can just jump around in, and this whole time I'm going from the level editor into playing the game just constantly. Every 5 minutes or so I'm just jumping into the level just to see how it feels. Now as you can see there are a bunch more different pieces than just those two, so what I'll do is I'll start building upon those patterns and do little mutations. So for this piece right here, for example, I changed the large column building to one of these half dome pieces, and for a couple of the other ones I added this little spire piece on top, and that's basically how I go through and build a level. This process allows you to build a level that looks cohesive. It kind of gives it a theme, and because of that, the levels that you build will look unique and different from each other, so that all of the levels that you make just don't look the same and feel the same. Now for this, just a higher level view, there are a few different kinds of levels that I look to make, just based on the scope, the scale of the level, the challenge even. This particular level is more of what we call an exploratory level. It's quite a large open world with a lot of movement. You can't necessarily see the entire level just from standing from the start, so you want to jump around and explore the level. There's a lot of verticality to it, which is a lot of fun just because of the jetpack mechanics and whatnot. It allows you to get to places that you want to get, and you're not forced into areas where the enemies have you pinned and stuck.
Hey, Aaron, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
So, did you draw any inspiration for this level from any other games or anything in the real world, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the levels that I do make in here, I'll jump into another level real quick. Let's see, Sky Sewers. I'll go for actual real world kind of locations, and then obviously mutate them quite a bit so they fit the game. This particular level sort of looks somewhat like the sky tubes from like Futurama, or like the Jetsons or something, So I'll take that idea and then build upon it, and then make sure they're fun looking and fun to play. Now this is another very large exploratory level. There's a lot to it. It allows you to kind of move around all of these guys, and basically just go where you want. Let me jump into a different kind of level real quick. Some of you may recognize this level from the beta. It's one that basically how we develop levels is we will one person will kind of build the skeleton like you saw before with the clockwork tower, and then we'll hand it off to another person to add either gameplay elements. They'll add different enemies, tweak the balance of that, or just aesthetic pieces just to make it look prettier. Now this level is in the beta, and then it was handed off to me just to, add a little bit more to the just like the aesthetic level of this particular set. So what I did is I added, some of these mid-ground kind of large background pieces to build out, just flesh out the world. This game is very hard to play while you're trying to talk and explain things.
So the folks in the chat really like the exploration sort of aspects of
Sure.
these levels. And there's a comment here as one of the guys said it reminds him of the dudes in Portal 2.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. The overall look, like kind of the white paneling and stuff, definitely inspiration from Portal, for sure. Now, let's see.
The guy here says it reminds him of Unreal Tournament.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Any of those kind of, quick Twitch-based arena shooters were definitely games that we've played a lot, we know, and we've pulled a ton of inspiration from, because those games are awesome. They're a lot of fun. So we don't have to reinvent everything from the ground up. Let's pull some of the fun aspects from some of those worlds and include them in ours. Now let's see. Any other questions?
No, I think we're good for now.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. This level right here, when in Rome, was another skeleton that I created to act as a survival map. Now, survival maps are a little bit different in that you need a level that has enough space for the player to spend, however long they're able to. So you don't want it to get repetitive or boring, and you still want it to be very easy to maneuver around in. Survival includes basically as many titans as you can handle. It just kind of rotates through titans until you die. So making levels that are specifically built for that mode is definitely key. So that's some of the things that I think about when I'm building a level for that. And just having having levels that are fun to bounce around in without even any enemies is really important, because some of that interest, like the visual interest and the fun of just going around the environment, transfers to the final levels. Yeah, please guys, ask any questions.
Yeah. Well, so when I read out some of what's going on here, one of the guys said, blur effects really seem to add something, especially in the darker backdrops here.
For sure. Yep.
And, I think one thing to call out is probably a lot of the backdrops or skyboxes are placeholders. So you're going to actually see some of that change over time as we develop new skyboxes. So a lot of what you're seeing as Ryan described it, are really just level skeletons. This is kind of phase 1 or maybe phase 2 of developing a new arena or a new level, and these will get iterated on, the skyboxes will change, and new enemies will be added, etc., etc.
Yep, exactly.
Alright, so in a couple of minutes, Ryan, I'm actually going to go jump on a call with the Churro. It's crazy busy times here at the But what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle the questions towards you, so if you just look over every couple of minutes and then you can just answer them verbally.
Sure.
So I'm going to do that. So folks in the stream, thanks for joining us. Sorry for the confusion today. We're getting better and better with this. Over time we'll get it right. I have to leave, but Ryan will be here for hopefully another 15-20 minutes. And one of the things Ryan's going to talk about is he's going to give you some tips on how you guys can make better levels. So if you're using Steam Workshop or you haven't tried Steam Workshop yet and you're wondering how you can develop a really good level, hopefully Ryan, who's definitely, probably one of the most experienced level designers that's worked with Asia Barn over the years, they can definitely offer you a lot of neat tips and things that he does to try to make a good fun level. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rohit.
Yep.
Okay, guys. Yep. Any questions you have, feel free to fire away. Yep. I'll just go through real quickly just how you guys can get into basically what I do here and make some of your own stuff. Now, first things first, you go to the Steam Workshop, right? We actually have a few guides up. If you check out Steam guides on a bunch of the shortcuts, just keyboard hotkeys and stuff that really help when you're making stuff in the editor. There are a few videos as well, just tutorials to get you started. So definitely check those out if you're interested in creating some levels for DRP. As far as what you want to look at as far as like layout and just how you want to build the levels, a few things to think about are the flow of the level. Do you want to have sort of the player going around in a circle around the outside of the level, fighting a giant titan in the middle? Do you want to have a lot of vertical leaps, or do you want to have something like this particular level where the player can go to one end and actually just jump in the teleporter right here and be teleported to the other side, perhaps for a shortcut for a power-up that spawned, without having to go like directly through or under a giant titan in the center of the arena. Now, there are a few key points that you want to think about when you are creating the flow of this level. In general, you don't want to have any kind of dead ends. You don't want the player to get into a situation where they can't get out of without having to go through a bunch of enemies. You want to allow for a lot of just forgiveness. So let me jump into another level real quick and go to this one right here. This is another old level from the beta that I revamped a bit. Now for this particular level, it allows a lot of player forgiveness. In general, for just the strategy for this level, you want to get on top of these rings and start grabbing all these points up here. Now it's not necessarily easy to get on top of those levels, so we built in a little bit of forgiveness with these platforms right here, so you don't necessarily fall all the way down. Just things like that, little shortcuts to help players get where they want, even if they've made a particular mistake. One kind of good rule of thumb I like to build levels based on is any kind of large area or central room, you want to have at least 3 exits that are connected to it in different locations, just so if the player goes in one, they see that another one is blocked off, they don't immediately have to turn around, they can go to that 3rd exit. To again give some forgiveness to make it seem like the game isn't being unfair. I see a lot of kind of rookie level designers create levels that are very difficult. Again, it's really difficult to play this game while trying to explain this stuff, but bear with me. They'll make a level really difficult because you want to add a bunch of enemies, you want to make things look really awesome, say you're building the level and you see a new enemy. Yeah, let's throw it in. Sure, why not? Let's try it out. And then you do that maybe 3 or 4 more times, and suddenly you've got this massive ocean of enemies that are just almost impossible to beat. So you want to make sure that you are you're building the structure of the level such that the player can move around freely even if there are a lot of enemies, and this game certainly has plenty of those. Let me grab one more level. Can jump into this guy right here and start talking about some of the aesthetic ideas that I throw at levels. After a level has been through the skeleton phase, we'll start throwing. I'll hand off the level and hand it off to some of our gameplay designers to throw power-ups in, or enemies, or whatever, even titans. And then after they feel satisfied with the first pass for that, they'll hand it back to me, and then I'll throw an aesthetic pass at it, which means I'll basically just try to make things look pretty. Now that includes several kind of layers that I go through. One of them is just structures, just adding little details to the structures themselves to look, like a world. I have no idea what these little triangular beams are, but they mean something in this world. They're backdrops to these platforms. Sure, why not? But it's more interesting than just having those platforms. Now the second layer that I'll look at is lighting a level, which is heavily indicated by like the skybox, this backdrop that you see. Now this level has kind of a sunset type orange hue to it, so we want to reflect that in the lighting. So every level, when you start it off, it has in the center this little yellow globe right here called just a directional light, and just to rough out lighting, you can kind of go into these colors right here and change it to, if it's green, just change it like that or whatever. Now a lot of times that doesn't quite get the amount of polish and amount of like simulation of actual light that you'd like, so you add some of these little globes right in here. You just go to add lighting and you have a point light right here. Now be careful not to add too many of these because they do slow down the system, but my general setup is 2 or 3 of these, and this one right here, I set the range all the way up to 100, so it affects as much of the level as you can, and then you set a very strong color and strong intensity and place it somewhere outside so it kind of catches some of these platforms. Makes it look a little bit less flat than just a directional light, and then I'll do that with a few more lights around the level until you have enough variation for it to look good, somewhat realistic, as realistic as a jetpack sci-fi bullet hell game can look, really. Yeah, so that'll be kind of one of the last passes we'll make before we really get into the balance of enemies and titans and stuff, and how it fits into the whole arc of the game world itself. So let me take a look at some of the questions you guys have asked and see what I can do to answer them. So level creation for you guys is separated into different duties. Yeah, sometimes it's generally 3 or 4 of us that that hand levels back and forth. So sometimes Ichiro will build a level skeleton and then hand it to me, or I'll hand it to Dan, or whatever. Or sometimes I'll build the skeleton, and Dan will put the enemies in, and then Ichiro will make an aesthetic pass on it, or whatever. It's kind of up to each of our strengths. I'm trained as an artist, so I generally do a lot of like the lighting and just aesthetic passes on a lot of the skeletons that are handed to me. But I also do a lot of the enemies and just gameplay as well. And I mean, all of those different tasks go hand in hand with each other. You know, like if a level looks really pretty but doesn't play well, then it's not going to be a good level. You want to have good gameplay as well as, you know, a pretty looking level, a level that looks unique, that doesn't get, you know, confused with every other level in the game. So let's see. Yeah, and Elliot also did some explanation for that as well. Now, this is a level that I actually built this morning, very early stages, you know, just a concept really, just to test this idea that I came up with. You know, what would it look like, or how would it play if you just had these cube structures made up of a bunch of different platforms. And so, you know, I messed around with it a bit, put some cubes in, gave it a little bit of verticality, made sure that the player doesn't get stuck in one particular area. They have freedom of movement. So if you go down here, you want to have an escape. You want to have some way to get up there that doesn't involve your jetpack. So, you know, jump pads are very useful for allowing the player to move just around the level vertically. And they're a lot of fun, definitely. So, you know, this is just a very, very early concept that hasn't had any passes on it thus far. Once it has a few passes, we may, you know, include in a build, and you guys will be able to mess around with it once it's populated. I think that's pretty much all I have for you today. Let me see if there are any more questions. So this is an in-game level editor. All of the assets that we have in the editor are brought into this this UI right into the game. You have all of the buildings and everything that we used to build. I mean, you set up lighting. It has its own controls that are somewhat based off of some, you know, game art programs that a lot of us use. Again, all of the controls and keyboard shortcuts and whatnot are up on a guide on Steam. So if you're looking to get started, definitely go check that out first. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it for today. Thank you guys for joining us here. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the levels that you make and put up on the workshop. Thanks. Bye.